Welcome back here to Restoration Design. Today we're going to be working on installing the seat frames in our 914 Porsche. I've already done the prep work on our risers and I've bolted on the hinges to our seat frame already. You need those bolted on in order to be able to position your risers on the new floor of the car. I have our seat mount adjustment bracket mounted in already, and I have the riser set in place ready for alignment. The first riser is actually fairly easy to install. You need to just place it over top of the channel that's here. This is the seat support channel that's in the floor of the car. I'm going to take your seat frame and get it into the height adjustment bracket on the lowest setting and push it down at the back. You want to align like this with the riser's center right on the seat frame hinge. Once you're happy with your placement of the first side, you want to take your square, it doesn't really matter what type of square you use, this is a combination square, and align the frame like so with the cross member, and then you can begin to secure your risers to the floor with self-tapping screws. You want to put your seat frame back in place just to double check to make sure that your hinges align with the center of the risers. If you're happy with the alignment of your seat frame, you can go ahead and use your MIG and tack your hinges to your risers. Now that our hinges are tacked in place, we want to check to make sure that the seat frame actually adjusts properly. Full working order and you're happy with it. We're then going to remove the seat frame and remove the risers. I'm taking the risers over to the bench. It'll make it a lot easier on myself to complete the welding. Before I begin welding the hinges onto the risers, I'm going to use some cooling gel to make sure I keep the temperature down on the hinges. The main reason why I like to weld these on the bench is because the side laterals on the 914 tend to get in the way from being able to get a proper weld in on the underside of your hinge. During the cleaning process, after I finished welding them, I made sure to keep my lines on here so that I know which side goes to which side. Next, we want to bolt our hinges and risers back onto our seat frame so we can put it back in place to make our final alignment before we weld the risers to the floor. I'm leaving the bolts for the hinges a little loose on the frame to allow for a bit of play so we can make our final adjustments when we put the seat frame and risers back in the car. Now that we've got our seat frame back in place, just double check to make sure that it's still square with the frame of the car so the seat doesn't end up crooked when you weld your risers to the floor. Now that we're happy with our placement, we want to secure the risers back to the floor of the car with self-tapping screws. As you can see, my risers are a little off alignment from where I originally had them before I welded. That's why I left the risers loose on the frame so that I could adjust it a little bit more before I final weld our risers to the floor of the car. This is our final check to make sure that our seat frame adjusts up and down properly. And as you can see, it fits in every one and it moves nice and smoothly. I'm going to complete a couple of rosette welds and then remove the seat frame off of the risers in order to complete the rest of the welds. You also want to remember to keep in mind you want to keep the area cool. I'm going to be using compressed air to keep the rosette areas cool so that it doesn't cause the steel to migrate or twist. As you can see, I've removed the seat frame to make it easier to finish the rosette welding. You're going to need to use your hammer in there in a few spots in order to get the steel nice and tight down to the other steel to make a nice solid weld. As you can see on the passenger side of the car, we've already completed the rosette welds. The hinges are fully installed and we've put some weld-through primer on all of it to protect the steel until you're ready to finish paint. We've completed the work on the inside of the car, so now we need to move to the bottom of the car because there's holes that are made from our self-tapping screws that go right through the floor of the car, So we need to fill them in with some MIG and grind them down nice and smooth. You can see here from the driver's side, the work that hasn't been quite completed yet. We've got screws sticking through and the holes there that need to be filled. But the passenger side is completed and it's been nicely ground down. You can't tell. Everything's nice and neat, looks pretty. So that completes the installation of our risers and hinges for the seat mounts for our 914 Porsche. We hope to see you again soon as we continue the restoration of our 914. And feel free to subscribe to our YouTube channel to watch much more videos that we've got coming up on not just the 914 but also our BMW 02 series. Just a reminder, gentlemen, this is just a suggested method in order to complete your project.